from the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast.
Coming up on Ag Day, ag bankers say the rural economy is slowly improving. Plus, will cotton and dairy get a safety net surprise? And agribusiness prepping for 2018.
I look at being prepared for the unexpected.
Our poinsettia is poisonous. We have new research and remembering our heroes during the holidays.
Ag Day, presented by the Chevy Silverado. High-strength steel for high-strength dependability.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Creighton University's Rural Main Street Index is out, and it's up from a year ago, but overall the farm economy is still below growth neutral. That's our top story here on Ag Day. The index measuring the state of the ag economy by bankers located in 10 rural states, the newest index improving 11 points compared to December of last year. It's also up from last month by 3 points. The biggest gains made in the retail sales index, which improved significantly from 40.7 in November to 52.4 in December. It's the highest December retail index recorded since 2014. Now, bankers say cash rents on average are down 10% from 2 years ago at an average rate of $205 per acre.
On average, this is about $190 per acre per year. Now that's much higher. That's lower in South Dakota, higher in Illinois, but that's down significantly. At this time, a couple of years ago, we were at $250 an acre per year, and that's so down quite significantly over the last couple of years.
Goss expects those rates to decline even more in 2018. Now, a third of bankers also reporting a downward trend in bank finance farmland purchases over the past 2 to 5 years. Congress is furiously working to finish several important resolutions before year end, including a continuing resolution to keep the government running and an $81 billion disaster aid package. Now, included in that measure, changes to the cotton and dairy safety nets. It adds cottonseed to the list of commodities eligible for Title I crop payments. And if it doesn't happen, the cotton and dairy industries will continue working desperately to see changes in the next farm bill. Tyne Morgan reports.
Dairy farmers face a grim reality for 2018. Class 3 milk prices in the $14 range. And most will tell you prices just don't pencil out. Dairy leaders say it's a price story that is playing into a bigger need, a need for a better safety net in the next farm bill.
The current program, the Margin Protection Program, as you know, is not working. It's not working as intended. It is the right outline of a program, but cuts that were made in the policy as it's working its way through the 2014 Farm Bill process really ended up rendering it ineffective.
It's not just dairy demanding more in a new farm bill. Cotton growers also want to see changes, asking cotton to be included in Title I or the commodities portion of the legislation.
I think without a doubt we will get cotton back in eligible for either ARC or PLC payments. Most likely the generic acres that were designated last time will be turned back into some kind of a cotton-based acre, and we'll go from there. And I think the real question is that going to provide enough money to really provide a good safety net for cotton, or do we need to look elsewhere?
However, budget limitations, some fear, could steer conversations off course.
No question the biggest sticking point is going to be money. You know, lots of people have ideas for new programs, for funding of old programs, for changes, and those are all well and good. But the fact is we have a flat baseline. We have no new money. So if we're going to come up and propose ideas that are going to cost new money, we got to also propose some ideas for ways to save money.
Former Ag Secretary Tom Vilsack says agriculture needs to quit focusing on the lack of funding in Washington, instead making a case for agriculture's top needs.
There are significant needs in dairy. The folks in cotton will tell you they have a need. I think all producers are concerned about the way the programs are working, the PLC program and so forth. So I think first and foremost we ought to define what the need is. And then I think we ought to be challenged to basically find creative ways to leverage the resources that are available.
He says one example is the Regional Conservation Partnership Program in the last Farm Bill, a program that was able to bring more money into conservation without identifying those dollars as federal.
I said this when I was secretary, and I'll say it now that I'm not. We ought to talk about it in terms of not just a farm bill, it's a jobs bill, it's a research bill, it's an innovation bill, it's a conservation bill, it's a trade bill. And I think if we start talking about it in its totality, I think people will understand the necessity of finding creative solutions.
Finding creative solutions could also be a challenge, considering the tight timeline for not only creating but passing a new farm bill.
The respondents to the poll also said that if you don't have a farm bill by around April of 2018, then it's going to be punted to minimum after the 2018 elections in November, because April is when the primary season happens for a number of Republican spots, both in the House and the Senate, that are going to face other Republican candidates to challenge, sitting lawmakers.
There's uncertainty surrounding the fate of a farm bill during a time when commodity prices are suffering, creating a farm economy that continues to struggle even as the calendar flips to 2018. Reporting for AgDay, I'm Tyne Morgan.
All right, thanks, Tyne. Congress also finishing its massive tax reform legislation this week. That bill, now headed for the president's desk, he's expected to sign it shortly after the new year. The just-released drought monitor shows dryness is building across the Central Plains and into the south this winter. The current national drought map showing overall drought grew slightly from last week. Dryness persists across much of the Central Plains and southern half of the U.S. Kansas, Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri make up ground zero for drought right now, with every county in all 4 states under some level of severe dryness or drought. USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey says those conditions likely won't improve this winter due to La Nina.
We have seen drought expanding and intensifying across a broad area of the country, most notably from Southern California through the Central and Southern High Plains, and also in parts of the Mid-South, the Lower Mississippi Valley, and even along the Atlantic coast. We have seen generally dry conditions so far this autumn and winter. And there's no reason to believe that shouldn't continue, so we do expect to see drought to further expand and intensify across broad sections of the central and southern United States over the next several months.
Let's turn now to Mike Hoffman. He has a look at crop comments for the end of the week. Here we are, Mike. Good morning.
Good morning, Clinton. Let's start off with Braden Smith of Nebraska. Braden is using one last nice day to build an electric fence before winter's temperatures arrive. Believe it or not, some farmers are still out in the field. Jason Burke just got done with his second crop of harvest in southern Alabama. Jason says test weights are lingering around the 57 to 58 mark. However, moisture content is nearly 25%. And taking a look at the wind speed forecast, you can see some areas will be 10 to 15 miles per hour from the Ohio Valley into Texas, also the northern plains into the northern Rockies. It gets windier as the day goes on, though, across the Dakotas, at least part of the time, and parts of Wyoming. A few spots from Texas into the northeast. You can see nothing major, but it looks like southern Wyoming into Colorado and Utah appear to be the windiest area as we head through the day tomorrow, and that'll kind of go down into New Mexico as well. I'll have your forecast coming up, but first, here are some hometown temps.
Farm Journal On Air is the go-to app for American agriculture. AgDay, AgriTalk, U.S. Farm Report, and more. 24/7 access to all of your favorite shows, TV and radio. In your hands, on demand. Farm Journal On Air. Download the app today.
When we come back, we'll talk about what to expect from markets in 2018 and how to prepare for a new year. And later, how many times have you chased the kids and pets away from poinsettias? Are they really poisonous? We'll hear from one medical expert, and we'll see how you can help remember the men and women who served this country with distinction and deserve to be honored during the holiday season.
AgDay, brought to you by Alivo Seed Treatment from Bayer. Protect your soybeans from SDS and nematodes this season.
Agribusiness, another mixed day on the commodity floor. Let's see how Thursday sessions closed from the floor of the CME in Chicago.
We have seen corn trading in a very, very narrow range. We've been talking about that 350 level kind of being a magnet for the market. That was a big magnet for the December contract, and I think will continue to be for this March. Now, on the soybean side of things, we've obviously been under a lot of pressure over the past couple of weeks, leaving basically a technical graveyard on the charts. Finding a little bit of support here at the psychologically significant 950 level. We do have option expiration tomorrow that could help support things and maybe even encourage a little bit of short covering here in the near term. It's been Oliver Slope with Blue Line Futures from the floor of the CME.
John Payne, Daniels Trading, our guest here at the Agribusiness Desk today. John, as we turn the corner into 2018 and start looking at what do we expect, what are you expecting, what are you watching for, and how are you going to treat a new, fresh year?
Well, I would certainly look at everything that we know as far as the fundamental picture of what's going on in the markets, the supply and demand charts and the COT numbers, all of that is known. I look at being prepared for the unexpected. And I think right now inflation is something that's unexpected. Higher input costs are something that's unexpected. I would be prepared for higher prices in 2018. I don't think it's going to happen in the first quarter. I don't think you're going to see some sort of shot up. But what has worked in the last 3 to 4 years has been to sell ahead, continuously sell ahead, and hammer the back of the curve with sales.
Right.
And I think we're kind of getting to a bubble in that. And I think we've seen the markets now essentially flatten out with volatility. And at some point, there's going to be a move that's made. And it could be on the back of a couple of things where that market will jump. And I think that's why keeping some grain exposure makes a lot of sense here. I know a lot of folks, questioning storing it or not. I don't know if storage is your best route, but having some sort of grain exposure in 2018, I'm pretty confident we're going to see higher prices.
Yeah. So if that happens, how are we going to go about accomplishing that, or managing our margins on the farm, that kind of stuff?
Well, today the CME just dropped margins from $850 a contract down to $500 a contract on the corn contract. So if you're sitting on 10,000 bushels of corn, and let's say it's saving $320 with the basis, that's $32,000 that you're passing up. We talked to an analyst before here who was mentioning interest rates going up. The cost of capital is starting to rise. The cost of storage really hasn't been higher. So in our opinion, and I know I'm a futures broker, so this is what I do, but you need to be efficient with your capital. And if owning corn is your goal, there's a lot of ways to do it. Don't just feel that you need to bypass and sit it in the bin and pay commercial storage to do that.
All right, John, appreciate the insights. We'll be back with more AgDay in just a minute.
To follow John Payne's take on the market, check out www.thisweekingrain.com. AgDay, brought to you by the Enlist Weed Control System. More weed control, less drift and volatility, maximum yield potential.
Every year at this time, people in states accustomed to snow start asking if it'll be a white Christmas. Now, we checked with USDA meteorologist Brad Rippey. Looking back, just the 21st century, snow coverage for December 25th was as low as 21% in the country in 2003, the highest amount, 63% in 2009. But right now, it's about a quarter of the country. However, there are some snowmakers across the north.
And the wild card as we head toward Christmas is whether or not we will get a storm moving from the Midwest into the eastern United States. If that does happen, we could substantially increase snow cover right around Christmas time. But we're still a few days away from that, so no guarantees on whether that'll happen or not.
And as we look at the drought monitor here, and Mike, it just kind of more of the same of what we've seen over the last few weeks.
I know, and it's expanded in the southern plains, but the worst area has gotten a little better, so a little bit of a difference there. But overall, there's a lot more color on this map than there was 3 or 4 months ago. You can see the dry areas have been expanding. So let's go back a month and see what it looked like. You can see the worst areas really aren't too much worse than they were from Arkansas into Missouri, but the overall extent of that drought area has expanded over the past 4 weeks. As we go week by week, you'll notice not a lot of change in western South Dakota and eastern Montana either. It stayed pretty much the same over the past 4 weeks or so. Let's take a look at the weather map today then. We have a couple of systems, one storm system moving through the lower Great Lakes. Most of that moisture is in the form of snow to the north of that system. Then we have scattered showers down into Texas with it. There's the Arctic air, at least the initial shot of Arctic air, coming southward into North Dakota, Montana. There'll be snow in the upslope regions of the northern Rockies, just a touch of snow along the cold front farther east. More and more rain gets going along this cold front, though, in the central Mississippi Valley, parts of the Tennessee and Ohio Valley as we head through the afternoon. Snow continues to progress eastward into Maine as we head through tomorrow morning, with rain all the way south along the front to far southern Texas. The Arctic front, then again, not a lot of moisture with it, but only in the upslope areas are we going to see some of that snow. That very cold air will continue to progress southward. This is another shot of cold air, and this system actually has a chance of putting down some snow over time, depending on the exact track as we head into Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. There's a precipitation estimate over the past 24 hours. Not a lot, as you can see, and most of this was in the form of snow. But the next 36 hours, our computer model's going crazy over parts of Tennessee, showing 4 or 5 inches of rain in those areas. So there is going to be some heavy rain developing along that slow-moving initial cold front. Taking a look at snowfall then, past 24 hours, it's mainly been from Nebraska and South Dakota over through Michigan. Adding in the next 36 hours, it'll be mainly through New England with a little bit more over the central and northern Rockies as well. So temperatures, highs today only in the teens and 20s, the far northern states 70s and even some 80s in South Texas there along the Gulf Coast. Tomorrow morning into the single digits, Montana, parts of the Dakotas, that's the real cold air coming in, and it only makes it back into the single digits and teens in parts of the northern plains as well tomorrow afternoon. So that's the reason the jet stream just brings that initial shot of Arctic air in. It looks like it relaxes here, but this is still very cold air for much of the northeast quadrant of the country. Another shot coming late next week. That's a look across the country. Now let's take a look at some local forecasts. We head to Kingman, Arizona. First of all, good deal of sunshine and a bit milder. High back up to 53 degrees. Grand Forks, North Dakota, cold with a bit of snow, high around 16. And finally, Corbin, Kentucky. Periods of rain could be heavy at times, high of 58.
All right, when we come back, we'll poinsettias make you sick. And we'll see how you can help remember the men and women who served this country with distinction and deserve to be honored during the holiday season.
Receive a free trial of the Daily Grain Plan newsletter from Roach Ag Marketing. Text Roach to 31313. Start your subscription today by texting Roach to 31313.
Poinsettias are a popular plant this time of year for decorating, but are those showy holiday plants with red and green foliage poisonous? Well, a pediatrician at Indiana University conducted some research, and her outcomes should ease your fears.
And a lot of people, especially parents, worry because they've heard that poinsettias are toxic. Interestingly enough, and I say this both as a pediatrician and someone who's looked at all of the research, poinsettias are not really much of a risk. They looked at more than 23,000 cases where poinsettia ingestions were reported to the Poison Control Bureau, and in none of those cases were there deaths or serious injury. In fact, more than 95% of them required zero medical care whatsoever.
Still, that doesn't give you the green light to gnaw on the plant. Dr. Vreem says mild rashes from touching the plants or nausea from chewing or eating the leaves may occur, but they aren't deadly for humans or their pets. And speaking of Christmas, don't forget to join us Monday for our annual holiday special, Christmas in the Country. Tyne Morgan and I will share stories that will warm the heart this holiday season. We'll meet the farmers who place Christmas trees at the White House. We'll also visit Colonial Williamsburg, which is decked out for the season. Even Machinery Pete will join us with some advice for Santa if his sleigh breaks down. Gather the whole family Monday for Christmas in the Country. Up next, a holiday message that resonates throughout the country by remembering those who served our country so gallantly.
Ag Day, brought to you by Top Third Ag Marketing. Farmer first with a plan for every market.
In the Country, brought to you by Kubota. Learn more about Kubota SSV Series skid steers at Kubota.com or demo one at your local Kubota dealer today.
Christmas memories are part of the fabric that makes this season so special, so nostalgic. It's remembering spending Christmas Eve or Christmas morning at grandmother's house, playing basketball or football on a cool day with cousins that helps to round out the feelings tied to this special time of year. And then there are those special people who are no longer with us, people who remain in our hearts but are no longer in our lives. These are some of the people, and more specifically the veterans, that Wreaths Across America focuses on each Christmas. This year, more than 1,400 people and 500 truckloads, many of them horse trailers from folks in rural America, stopping in cemeteries across the country. In all, more than 1.5 million wreaths were placed, representing a love and respect for military veterans and their families. It's a moment some volunteers cherish as sacred, a chance to remember loved ones who served so well. So this holiday season, take time, whether military or not, to remember your loved ones, no longer baking in the kitchen, stoking the fire, or bundling up to feed cows on Christmas morning. They may be gone, but they will always be in our hearts. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you spent part of your day with us. And as I mentioned, don't forget to join us Monday morning for Christmas in the Country. From all of us here at Ag Day, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day in farm country.
Ag Day, brought to you by Ram Commercial, America's longest lasting heavy duty pickups.